Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Chris Stenberg, and I am a filmmaker and photographer in Penticton, British Columbia. And I'm here with my favorite barista friends, Ryan and Thuy, at Soe Cafe in Penticton. This space has very quickly become like a hub of creativity. And being that we're talking about creativity and community, I just thought you were such a good example of what kind of new energy is coming into Penticton and just the type of people that are kind of gathering around what you're doing here. So maybe you can tell me just a little bit about, why you decided to start this cafe and what Soe is all about and how you've arrived at this place.
Do you want to
go? You can start for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess maybe a little context. So Thuy and I met in Tokyo when she lived there in 2018. And that's, I guess, the beginning of our relationship. We were dating long distance for a while, and then long story short, in 2020, end of the pandemic, we got married, and Thuy moved here to Penticton, and we kind of started our Okanagan life here together. But when we moved here, we kind of realized that there wasn't a whole lot going on in terms of what we used to kind of frequent, the types of places that we used to frequent, like food and beverage and cultural kind of spots. So it's something that we thought we could fill that void a little bit, especially coffee and wine as well.
So when I moved here, actually, Ryan hasn't mentioned this, but he was working in the wine industry. For the past 5 years we've been here, I'm working with a lot of local natural winemakers, Ursa Major Winery, Sage Hills, Keenan's Wines, also working with Anthony Buchanan. And that's how we kind of started our path, just from the wine world, drinking wine, but also we just found out there's no wine bar for us to hang out at.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy. I had been getting into wine and over the last from 2017, 2018 kind of onwards, and then 2019 I came here to do my first harvest, and I'd met this amazing group of young winemakers that are doing really exciting stuff, and I'd been drinking their wines in Victoria and Vancouver, and then I came here and there wasn't really a place for them. Their wines weren't really represented on restaurant lists. You didn't really see them around. A lot of people didn't even know about them. And granted, these are, smaller projects a lot of the time they don't have a tasting room or anything like that, or they're working out of another winery. So yeah, we were kind of blown away that a space didn't exist for these people that are here doing this really cool stuff. So yeah, we thought it seems like there's a room for something.
Yeah, I think we've always wanted to do our own projects, and just years of working in different industries like fashion and art is our background. We just, we settled here into this lovely community and just want to be here for a while and wanted a place to hang out with friends. And so that's how Soe came about. Yeah. It started as a listening bar concept. We fell in love because of music. Shout out to the Japanese band called Fishmans. Yeah. That's a great band if anyone wants to check out. But I got really inspired living in Japan and going to all these kisatens. I really admired the fact that it was just always a one-man show, playing vinyl, pouring drinks, making coffee, making pizza toast. It was just a one-man show.
Mom and pop.
Yeah, mom and pop. But it was just so interesting that you go into these spaces and you're just surrounded by all these things that you're just relaxing. You're in your own world, but it's being shared in this space that's created by the owners themselves, and it's everything they love. So grew enamored with the idea of like a kisaten. And this is also simultaneously when Ryan started getting into audiophile gear.
Yeah, I went down the audio rabbit hole a little bit during the pandemic. I'd always been into like stereo stuff and music, obviously. But yeah, during the pandemic, I was like, oh, maybe it's time to upgrade my stereo system. And then I just have been falling down the rabbit hole ever since.
I mean, I guess for everyone that doesn't know what a kisaten is, that's kind of like Japanese coffee shops,
Yeah.
but it's also like a whole culture around coffee shops too. It's
Yeah.
not just the coffee shop itself.
So I can speak to that a bit. Yeah. So kisaten, and specifically like ongaku or music kisaten, they kind of blew up in popularity in Japan post World War II. And there's so many of them, although they are starting to kind of slowly close and as owners age out of working, unfortunately. But a lot of them are, genre specific. There's jazz kisa, which I think is probably the most well known in the Western world. But there's like rock focused ones, hip hop ones now, electronic music, like every genre under the sun, soul, reggae, all sorts of different kind of both music bars and these kisaten, which are kind of tea houses, which the translation is, but serving often coffee that these people are roasting themselves by hand, very in small batches typically. And these were places where people would go to listen to music when records were very expensive, especially imported music like jazz from the US. So these often like college students would open these places and hobble together these sound systems, sometimes put together really amazing sound systems and custom stuff. And then very much each one of these kisa are kind of a reflection of the owners, of their specific music taste, of their stereo and like audio philosophies, and yeah, just really very, very personal expressions that they share with their community.
What is the meaning behind the name?
So Soe comes from the concepts of ikebana, which is the art of floral arranging in Japan. When we came up with Soe, I was really obsessed with ikebana. I was just studying the concepts, the different arrangements, going to classes to learn more about the arrangements. It's such a beautiful form of art to be working with flowers in your hands. But it's also a really precise form of art. And the way the angles are placed, the flowers are placed, is really intentional. And there's meaning behind each angle. So Soe is one of the angles in ikebana. There's 3 angles. There's Shin, Soe, and Hike. And that translates to heaven, humanity, and earth. So basically it's full circle around like the heaven, humanity, earth aspect. So Soe represents humanity. So it is the balance between the heavens and the earth. And we felt like that was a really clever and also just an amazing way to sort of tie in the fact that we work with farmers, everyone local for produce and coffee and everything. And the heavens, we thought of it as like, oh, it's a different experience. It can be like a different experience.
When you have something like an amazing, something that tastes amazing, or
from the earth.
From the earth.
So we're just humanity at the end of the day. That's what Soe represents.
Deep.
Afterwards, we're like, should we have just called it Oslo? Should we have just named it after our dog?
I mean, your dog is wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think it's also kind of it's fun to have a name that people are like, don't really know what it means and don't know how to pronounce it. And it's kind of an inside track thing you have to know. Also, the space. So we didn't really talk about the design of the space, because that is one of the things that makes this really interesting and kind of like a creative haven too, because when you look around, it's just different. I mean, I've seen this style elsewhere, but certainly not in Penticton. And I think it was a really quite a bold choice for Penticton.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
design wise, this was done in collaboration with our friend Kate from Ete Objects and Design. She's a wonderful interior designer and designer from Vancouver, now in Toronto. But the space is really inspired by timeless Japanese and Danish design. So everything that is in here is, how would I say it? Minimal, but we're actually maximalists, I would say. So there's going to be more stuff filling into the space once it's more lived in. There'll be more art, there'll be more audio. We just started out very minimally because we wanted to showcase the concept behind Soe, slow coffees, slow living and everything. And we felt like Japanese and Danish design represented that really well.
Yeah. I think like material choice and everything, we wanted there to be a nice balance between that minimalism, but also a feeling of like warmth, especially like with the wood being kind of like a mid brown tone, I guess, a little more warm and inviting. But yeah, we love like the concrete floor and like the stainless steel countertops.
Design is definitely influenced by everything we love.
There's something about a space that breeds creativity too, right? And I can't quite put my finger on what it is about this place, but it's like, when I don't know, for me, like I'll stay in a hotel sometimes where the design is so good that it makes me want to like write a novel or something. Like a space that just like makes you feel like you want to be creatively productive. And I feel like this space has done that. And I don't know what it is about the space specifically.
I think sometimes, it's like intention, I think comes through. And especially if you're more attuned to, I don't know, design, or like
if you're sensitive to design,
or have a kind of creative bent, or have an appreciation for aesthetics, I think that's you feel it when you walk in the space.
I think when I designed this or thought about the design of the space initially, I'm visually sensitive to space. And the only thing that was literally on my mind was like, okay, if I'm sitting down having a cup of coffee myself, where would I want to be, and how, like, what kind of setting would I want to be drinking coffee? And I'm like, I just want the sun beaming on me. I want to look at large windows. I just want to see the sun through like a piece of wood, and that'll make my day. And maybe
through a piece of wood.
Sorry, on a piece of wood. I want to see the sun beaming on a piece of wood.
Okay. And
some flowers, and that's it. And I thought this wood was warm, inviting.
Even the choice of lighting too, though. I mean, in the evening, it's very soft and warm, and
I mean, I think all of those things, they all elevate your experience, right? Like, if you can have a great cup of coffee or a great glass of wine, but if you're in a not so great space with blaring lights or super loud reflections going on, I think it's a little less enjoyable. So I think they all work together. It's this accumulation of small details, right? It all kind of works towards the whole.
We call this our living room, basically. It's like we want to make it as comfortable visually and like also like mentally. Like I just want people to relax here when they sit.
Yeah, we want people to feel comfortable. Yeah.
There's a fun sense of discovery too about finding a place like this too. And so when I go to another city and I find Soe Cafe or whatever, if I came to Penticton and I wasn't from here, this would have a real like sort of earned sense of like knowledge, travel knowledge, right? Where, you find this place and it's like, wow, look at the place that I found. Like it's reflective of me as a person that I want to go here. And it's sort of like curating your experiences. And if, you want to suggest things to friends, it also is, it's like putting a book on your shelf. It's like, this is the kind of person I am. It's like, this feels like the kind of cafe that if you go here, sort of signifies like, well, this is the kind of person that I am. This is like the book on my, metaphorical shelf of like who I am, these kind of experiences. And I think that is really cool. And space does that for people.
Yeah. I mean, I think like everything here, it's like a lot of shared values, a lot of people that come in and have become a part of our community. We share a lot of the similar values or ethos or appreciation for certain things. And
yes, Penticton is very strange and special in a way where we know everyone that walks through the doors because of everyone who we work with. Like there's a lot of special winemakers, there's a lot of farmers, bakers, but we feel like just didn't have a space, and now we can all hang out in one space together. One
of the things that I felt about this place very quickly was that, I mean, there's so many layers of what's going on here. I mean, you have such an international experience, and you've brought that to the design of the space and also to the whole sort of ethos behind Soe, you know, with the listening cafe influence from Japan and your jazz kind of passion in there. And it's also really quickly become like a multicultural hub. I've noticed when I have coffee in here, Penticton hasn't always had sort of a place to gather if you're a little bit different or, you know, from another country. You know, we can talk about the creative aspect of everything here, I think, till the cows come home, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I think it's remarkable how quickly you've managed to build a loyal customer base that sees this kind of like as their second living room, and how diverse that group of people is, because I think diversity hasn't really been one of the strengths in Penticton leading into now. And I think COVID has changed that a little bit as more people have moved here, more younger people looking to get out of the city or, you know, explore a new place. But I mean, when you come here, it's a bit of like a cultural all-comers meet. You know, there's so many people from so many different walks of life that come through here. And yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that intentional, or is that just a...
No, not intentional, I would say. I think we ourselves celebrate diversity. We really try to amplify diversity. My family is all immigrants. So growing up with that culture, dual culture of like being American and being Vietnamese American, is you just appreciate, you know, the hard work they've built, the story they've gone through, and the history. And so it's important. It wasn't intentional to build that space, like to be different, because we are different. And I think we just wanted to have it be like a safe and open space naturally. It's more welcoming because of who we are. And also, like, we just want to share stories with each other. Like, diversity is a beautiful thing. And yeah.
I don't know if it's something you can really force or plan for without it feeling contrived. I mean, we were honestly blown away by the community that was already here, that came out very quickly after we opened. We weren't really expecting it right away, and we just very, very quickly started to build an amazing following, and met so many amazing people that really resonated with what we were doing, or, you know, just be connected on a personal level. I mean, yourself included. It just really, I think, naturally happened that way, because like you were saying, like, we believe in diversity because we are a little different. Especially like, I grew up in the Okanagan, I grew up in Kelowna, and I'm being half Japanese. It was very much, I was Asian, which, you know, just as much Italian as I am Japanese, and, you know, born in Kelowna, I'm very Canadian. But it was just one of those things where, you know, whatever is visible is kind of how you're identified. So yeah, I don't know. We're very, really happy to have been able to build a space where people feel comfortable coming in, you know, no matter what your background, and continue to really, you know, amplify the community that is here and the talent that is here around us. We've been able to work with so many really amazing, you know, cooks, chefs, artists, all sorts of people in the community here. Awesome.
I will say the one thing that is intentional is we are working with artists, like amplifying artists of color, BIPOC artists. That is something that is intentional. All our ceramics, we work with Honey Kang, who is a Korean Canadian ceramicist. Our tea distributor, is that the right word? Tea distributor?
Supplier.
Our tea supplier. Our tea supplier is Cultivate in Vancouver. By Jude. But where we are intentional is really amplifying like artists of color and creatives in that realm, just because it's so important to showcase different works by different people and different culture and histories and everything.
Yeah, we want to celebrate both, you know, what is here locally in Penticton, and that's reflected in a lot of our sourcing and, you know, who we work with locally as well. But also bring in a little bit of a different kind of perspective that, you know, comes with having different cultural backgrounds or having traveled or whatever else. But yeah.
What's interesting, because I feel like, I mean, you and I share a background, obviously, and it was funny that one day that Thuy was saying, like, oh, it's interesting watching all the half Japanese people when they come in, kind of looking at each other.
The Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, I mean, is he?
Yeah.
Like, but it's, I mean, when you grow up being a little bit the odd one out, I'm not saying we're so different or so wildly different, but there, where I grew up as well in North Vancouver, it was a similar experience where I felt different all the time. I felt like I was singled out based on not quite fitting in and looking like everybody else or sounding like everybody else or whatever. But yeah, you always feel like a little bit like a fish out of water. And then moving to Penticton when I did, which was, 15 years before you or something like that, it was very different. It was like going back to my childhood where all of a sudden I was really identified again by how I looked and how I was different than everyone else. And it was hard to go back to that as an adult. And things have changed over time here, but especially in the last little while. And I guess you get used to it. You build sort of a layer around yourself or sort of a little force field from those kind of things, and you learn how to deal with them, and that's just life. But all of a sudden to have a place where, hey, like, I feel like I fit in here. And then all of a sudden, all these other people have come out of the woodwork as well that are also like that. You're like, where was everybody? Yeah. And so we needed a space like this to kind of, like you said, like feel welcome and feel comfortable and free to kind of express yourself or whatever it is, but just, to gather. Right. Yeah. And I think that's been so cool just to see like, wow, all these people were here, but there was just not this community
that was
space.
Definitely one of our reactions where we started meeting these people and we're like, oh, are you visiting right now? And they're like, no, I live here. We're like, oh, like how long have you been here? And they're like, oh, like 4 or 5 years. And so have we. Like, where have you been? Like how have we not crossed paths?
Well, and I think that's what's so cool about what you've done. And I mean, we can go on about sort of our like racial backgrounds forever, but I mean, that's not really entirely what it's about either. I mean, I also feel there's a lot of artists that come here. There's a lot of people that have chosen a little bit eclectic lifestyles to pursue their passions or whatever they're doing. So whether it's like, young farmers or bakers or, literal artists like painters and things like that, and musicians. And you've done a really great job of kind of fostering this community of sort of misfit creative people or whatever you want to call them. Somebody's going to come back on me for that one, but I do. It's wonderful. And it's just like everybody here is so interesting. It's such a different crowd.
I really like that though. The misfits of creativities.
Yeah.
Or what did you say? Misfits of creative.
Misfits of
creative. Creative misfits.
Creative misfits. Yeah.
I'm not sure what
I like that. Yeah. Creative misfits.
It is. There's something about it that, it's a bunch of people that didn't really quite belong anywhere else. All have ended up here. And there's all kinds of business people, hockey players, painters, everything. But also, some of the events that you're putting on, I think really also bring that around. I mean, you're not having not to single out tacos as a thing, but there's a lot of taco trucks or food trucks that serve burgers and things like that have just become sort of, assimilated into our culture. But one of my favorite nights here was the yakitori night. And then you recently had a Pakistani cuisine pop up, chef friend come and cook here. Tell me about that sort of aspect of things. Like why are the sort of pop-up nights kind of important? And
yeah, I mean, that was something that we did, plan for and was part of our strategy, and part of the whole concept of the space was to bring in, chefs and, for the food program, bring in pop-up chefs from all over. We were really stoked to find some really amazing local people, including, like our friend Zoe, who used to be a winemaker, as well as now kind of shifted into cooking. And she did our first pop-up. It was the Italian night. It was really fun. And then, Jack Man, it's a food cart in town. It's a Japanese guy.
Jack is amazing.
Yeah. We, kind of randomly saw his cart one day and thought, oh, we should check that out. And then
first I was like, yakisoba in Penticton? No way. I was like, is it just like chow mein noodles maybe? But then we went to his food pop-up at the backyard of the cannery, and I was like blown away. Mm-hmm. And then it's just such authentic Japanese food like you get in Japan. Yeah. And then the more I got to know Jack, he's from Japan himself, he's such a humble man, but he's owned a yakitori restaurant in Japan for 15 years.
Yeah. He kind of
And
very casually mentioned
yeah.
it. I was like, oh, you're a yakitori master. He's like, no.
Yeah, and he's just like living here. He's running around doing 3 different jobs, but his passion is cooking. And so we made a space for him here at the cafe, and I think everyone was just blown away because Jack is such a lovely man, and his food speaks for himself. Yeah.
He's very, very talented and very humble,
but it's fun food. Like yakitori is just meat on skewers.
Yeah.
But
it's not though. There's something like, I don't know. I could go.
I mean, it's magical.
But
yeah.
You know, yakitori is like, I don't know. So to me, yakitori is this like, I mean, yes, it is just like chicken on a stick, but so much goes into it, and it's so much more that even just lighting the fire takes forever.
Yeah.
And when you have yakitori in Japan, it's such a like, oh wow, like it's such an amazing experience, and the flavor, the depth of flavor, even though it's just chicken on a stick.
Well, we won't even talk about the tare that goes into it, which is the sauce that goes over the chicken.
Yeah.
That's like chefs, like Japanese chefs, age their tare.
Build it over years and years.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing about yakitori.
I've never in my time, I mean, I've spent, and we'll get into the coffee part because we are in a cafe and that's how this started, but I guess it's been like 18 years or something since I moved here. And in that time, I've just been praying for good coffee. Coffee trends were changing around the world, and in the cities especially, you were getting these sort of like lighter roasts, more conscious sourcing of beans. Everything was a little more thoughtful and intentional, and the style of the coffee itself obviously changed dramatically, you know, in the mid 2000s, like things were, and there's a few people probably that really started that movement, and a few roasteries that really took that to a different level. And then it started to proliferate in the city into like small, interesting cafes in every big city for sure, every major center. But Penticton, we were always stuck in this sort of like over roasted, like jet black, you know, rocket fuel coffee mode where that sort of nuanced flavor wasn't there. Whereas now, you know, you're seeing coffee that is more akin to wine, where you have all these sort of, very interesting flavor profiles and all sort of different types of depths of roast. And it's so cool. But so I was waiting for that. Yeah. I did not in a million years think I would be like having a yakitori pop up in a cool cafe that I feel like I'm in another city, you know, in Penticton. And so, yeah.
Wow, so glad that I'm so glad that you've found us, and you know, you're one of our favorite people that comes in the cafe almost every day. So
I mean, you don't have to say that just because we're filming this.
Yeah. Chris Stenberg is our number one customer.
Yeah, please give him a second season of this podcast.
You want to talk about the coffee thing?
Yeah. No, I mean, I got into coffee a little, 13 years ago. I worked at a cafe briefly in Kelowna, and it was my first kind of run in really with third wave coffee. Like a lighter roast profile, you know, working directly with coffee farmers or with co-ops and that kind of thing, and really, you know, focusing on sourcing and the ethics behind it and the quality as well. And the kind of, you know, big paradigm shift for me. The first time I think it was Phil and Sebastian, I had a geisha from them, and it tasted like tea. It blew my mind that coffee could taste like that. And that definitely, you know, sent me down another coffee rabbit hole. And when I lived in Victoria, I, you know, frequented Bo's Coffee Roasters, befriended the people at Drum Roaster up in Cobble Hill as well on the island there, and just like fell deep into that world. I didn't work in it as much while I was there. A couple cafes briefly, but was always adjacent and always trying to kind of collaborate when I could with what I was doing at the time. But the whole kind of like light roast and sourcing in an ethical way, I think it makes sense with the way food systems were going and the way people were dining. You know, you look at farm to table restaurants, you look at, I mean, wine obviously has always been kind of a beverage of place, and people kind of look at it as something that's quality first, and you know, they're looking at you're drinking a type of grape, you're drinking a place. And it's not really a far stretch for coffee to also inhabit that same world. And, you see it now. And I think in Penticton here, Wayne and Frida really paved the way of, at least being like, this is coffee from this farmer, this country, and roasting a little lighter. And they were definitely kind of opened the door for specialty coffee here, which really, really grateful for. And then to be able to work with, some amazing roasters all over BC now, and some friends of ours internationally as well. We're trying to further that, take it to the next step kind of thing. And hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, essentially everything we curate in this space, whether it's coffee, wine, food, the pop-ups, it's very much, it's at the end of the day, you're just having a nice cup of coffee, enjoying your wine, having some good food. But the more you talk to us, the more you taste what you're drinking and eating, you realize that there's a lot of intention and care with what we're sourcing. And it's because we're working with people who really care about the food systems. Because coffee, wine, there's still a lot of, how do I say this?
Unbalanced power dynamics.
Yeah, there's still a lot of classism. There's still unbalanced power dynamics, as Ryan said. But it's just, we just want to make sure that, what's in front of you, what's being put in your body, who you're supporting, how the farmers and agricultural workers are being paid, and making sure they're, getting a fair, livable wage. That's really important for us.
I feel the intention with what you're doing, and even washing your hands here is an experience, or using napkins, like every little detail has been thought out. And I really appreciate that. And I think it's important that we do support all different kinds of makers and artisans.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the moment, we're only working with BC roasters, and these are like the smaller guys across the region, but they really care about the farmers they work with.
Yeah. They're building real relationships. Like, it's not just a transactional thing for a lot of these people. A lot of some of the roasters we work with have formed like buying groups together, so they can, help focus on certain regions where they believe that there's really great coffee being grown and good people doing it. And they, continue those relationships through, bad harvests and good, and continue to support them throughout that, which is what farmers need in the long run. Is, not every year is going to be a bumper year, and as we've experienced ourselves here in the Okanagan, climate change is very, very real, and especially for crops like coffee that can only grow in certain very specific conditions and regions. I think it's more important than ever to really kind of support those people that are putting their life and passion into growing the things we love to consume.
I guess, the sourcing of the coffee, obviously super important, and also all the things that go into, even baking and the roaster, and where that roaster is sourcing from. It's all, very well thought out. But on a more literal level, there's obviously like something that you're doing creative every day here as a barista. But I tell people, if you're going to go to Soe, don't go there in a hurry. Like, this is not this is not the place you come for, a quick hit, drive-through coffee, just grab and go. I mean,
that's fine too. We welcome that.
Yeah, no, I should say
please come by and grab your coffee to go.
Yeah, no, I also will come in if I'm in a hurry. I'll just get a drip coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
But the way that you do things here is also very thoughtful. I mean, you're not just banging out lattes. Your quality standard is so high, and so that comes with a certain amount of like waiting. I think like a pour over coffee is not something you can rush. A latte that's like made with care is also not something you can rush. And so it's interesting. It's like the customer base is a little bit self-selecting that way too, because it's, you're getting people that care about what they're getting and where it's coming from. And, but talk to me about the barista aspect of it. What's the process? I know you've got, some nice tools back there too.
Yeah. So, I mean, we really owe a lot to our friends, Chris and Becca, who are the Tulip House. They roast our house roast espressos. If you've had a latte, Americano, any espresso drink here, you've had their beans. They are supremely talented and very detail-oriented people. And we did a little kind of coffee boot camp with them prior to opening, which was really, really awesome to see. They make some of the best coffee I've ever drank. They have a little cafe in Loma Linda in California. Yeah, some of the most amazing espresso. And I think, like a lot of things, like a lot of really like great products, it's accumulation of a bunch of tiny details. Like all these like seemingly insignificant things, they all add up to something really amazing. So yeah, like I guess, you know, we got some great grinders. It's one of the most important parts. Good water filtration, which here in Penticton is super necessary with how hard our water is. And then, yeah, we got a really beautiful espresso machine, Slayer from Seattle. That's very manual, which is good and bad. It gives us a lot of control over the shots that we're able to pull. But it's also
takes a bit.
Yeah, it can take a bit.
It takes a bit.
It's not. I can't walk away from it. You can't press a button and walk away from your shot. You have to manually turn it on, manually turn it off.
But it really fits with our shop and our concept, I guess, of slow coffee. But everything is really detailed. Yes, like Ryan said, we have really great grinders, but we dial in the beans every morning to make sure they taste properly. There's a certain weight that we always have to, get the beans out at. There's a lot of little details with making each coffee cup, I would say. So yes, we have really great grinders, but we dial in our coffee beans every single morning to make sure they're ready to go
throughout the day.
And throughout the day, because temperature change, and that will affect the coffee heavily. It can be over extracted, under extracted. So that's why our process is a little bit longer than most. But yeah, we weigh the beans, we grind it out.
We do grind distribution. We have a little Weber Workshops WDT tool. Yeah,
we tamp the beans, and then we even have this little tool that we just like blow extra fluff out.
Any little loose bits, just blow it off. Keeps the machine clean too.
Yeah, and you just don't want that in your coffee process, I guess, for us. Yeah.
I love what you said about the combination of, a ton of tiny little details.
Yeah, they're really, really tiny, but it's in our entire process. But everyone has a different process of how they make coffee. Yeah,
that's the great thing about any creative kind of endeavor, and coffee making included. There's 1,000 different ways to do it, a million different ways to do it. We've kind of found things that work for us, and I'm sure it'll continue to evolve as well.
We're always super open to like finding different ways to like shorten the process, but sometimes it's not always about shortening the process. Yeah,
for sure.
I think sometimes maybe we just try too much to make everything more efficient and to maximize, right? Whereas sometimes what we need to do is step back and enjoy and appreciate.
Like we're, our business model, we're never going to be competing with Starbucks. It's a race to the bottom, and we don't want to get caught up in that. That's not our, we're not trying to find like extreme efficiencies and stuff. Like obviously you want to be efficient to a point where we can make coffee in a timely manner and people aren't, waiting an hour for their coffee. But yeah, there is something to be said. I mean, from the beginning, Thuy was always making sure that we were like, tell people it's slow coffee. We're marketing ourselves as slow coffee. And I was at first very kind of a little adverse to kind of, going down that path or calling ourselves slow. I was like, I don't want to be slow. Like, I don't want people to think it's slow.
So what I meant when I said that was I want to set up like this, thought for people that, this is not a place where you rush out, like in and out. Like, we don't want to feel rushed behind the bar. But, we want to make you a beautiful drink, and a lot of thought and process goes into that. A lot of very small details. Again, it's just a lot of attention and care.
Yeah, there's so many hands that go into a cup of coffee, and so much like work, so much labor and love that goes into like farming any crop, roasting it, shipping it, like all the people involved, like it would be a disservice not to treat it with care.
It sounds really deep, but I know if you get a really bad cup of coffee, that would ruin your whole day.
You can, for sure. Bad cup,
and I never want to do that.
Especially the beginning of the day, you have a bad cup of coffee. terrible way to start your day. We don't want to do that to anyone.
Yeah.
Well, I know so there was a coffee shop here many years ago called Smith and Company, which is where Black Antler is now.
Okay.
And so that place, I mean, it's a very different style of coffee and very different everything.
Yeah, coffee evolves.
But this is, 2006 era.
Yeah.
Sure.
One of the things I always really appreciated about her was that she would never serve a bad cup of coffee. And you can actually, visually see it. There's no crema or whatever it is. But, she would never have served it to me. She always went back and made another one, which I really appreciated that sort of care as well. And I mean, obviously coffee trends have changed, but yeah, there's something about when you're only going to have 1 or 2 cups of coffee, maybe 3 sometimes.
No judgment.
But when you're sort of on a coffee limit, you don't want to be like totally wired or your stomach's going to be weird if you have too much coffee.
Yeah.
Say on a day where I feel like I'm only going to have 1 cup of coffee, and you're right, if it's not a great cup of coffee, I am kind of disappointed. So
exactly.
I mean, you're spending your money on something as well.
Yeah.
It should, have the value that you
or make
place
you feel
upon
good.
it.
At least when you sip on it should at least make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, when I come here, this is like a treat part of my day, right? This isn't, I mean, I have coffee at home too. Often I've had coffee before I come here because just with a family, I need to, there's a functional necessity for like
you need the
immediate coffee,
Yeah.
right away, right now. And I think at that point in my day, it's a bit of a treat to, just to be out and socializing and, have a nice cup of coffee, but be around people and to feel inspired and to connect in the community. It's just a really nice part of my day. I mean, that's a really cool thing about coffee, right?
That's the thing I want to say is like, we're not judging anyone's like preferences of like coffee and how they drink their coffee. At the end of the day, we're just 2 kids who love certain ways of drinking coffee and wine and food and open the space up for collaboration and want to inspire, but also be inspired ourselves. It's a place to hang out.
It's really, it's been really interesting too. Cause like anything, any kind of creative thing, once you put it out into the world and share it, it's not fully yours anymore, which is a scary thing and a beautiful thing, I think, because it grows into something a lot bigger than you could ever produce yourself.
But that's how I see creativity is collaborating.
Exactly.
And like sharing ideas, and like I can have one idea, but then a friend could have like 3 other ideas, and that evolves. And that's like our space. It's like all the pop-ups is sharing other people's ideas and letting them use the space and how they want to use the space. And just sharing with others what they do. It's basically just sharing each other's passions with people and bringing that out of other people too.
I always wanted to provide something like that, and like a bit of a sanctuary for people like that don't feel like they necessarily have a place to fit in, that they fit in,
like
or
an outlet.
A little like haven kind of thing.
Well, I think that's a nice way to kind of like wrap up this conversation. I love what you've done here. I've said that over and over again. I'm really like just totally enamored with this place.
Thanks,
I feel
Chris.
like I'm in a different place. Like it transports me to so many other parts of my life that I've spent, elsewhere. And so to have this at home locally, I think it's really, it's super awesome.
Thank you.
And then, where, just for the audience sake, like where can people find you? I mean, obviously you have a physical space, but online.
We're mostly on Instagram. So at Soe.cafe. That's mostly it. We're pretty active on there.
Website?
I guess our website's there, but it just exists there for just as a website.
We update events on there as well. And
etc.com. Yeah.
Oh, we're on TikTok now too.
Yes, we're on TikTok, but that's slowly there. Slowly coming.
Now I know you guys have hit the big time. You're on TikTok.
We have
kidding.
Two videos.
We have a lot of support from community and people online, which is really special. And a lot of people from across the world too. Which is really nice. Yeah, we really appreciate it. We're super grateful. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. It's been lovely to chat with you, and I look forward to drinking lots more coffee here soon.
Thank you.